This film is presented with audio description. When you hear my voice, I'm describing something visual. A man sits with his guide dog, Vine, at his feet.
My name is Corey Joseph, and I'm a user experience and usability designer.
And what does that mean?
The interviewer speaks from off screen.
I make technology understandable.
Corey wears khakis, a blue button up shirt, and a dark gray sweater.
To get here today, I used Uber just like anyone else would. But on top of that, I also used another app called Blind Square.
Corey walks out of an apartment building. He calls an Uber car using his iPhone.
I entered in the address to Uber and called my ride just like anyone else would. But I also entered my destination into Blind Square. And Blind Square will notify me of major intersections, major points of interest, and major address changes as we're moving along via voice.
Inside the car, Corey's phone speaks locations out loud.
So while I'm in the Uber and we're riding along, I don't have to just rely on the driver knowing where we are. I actually knew where we were as well because Blind Square was announcing major points of interest and intersections.
Vine rides at Corey's feet.
And when we were at Burnside and MLK, I knew where we were as well. I wasn't at the behest of the driver.
Corey and Vine exit the car.
For example, getting here today, I actually went into the dance studio that's 2 buildings over.
Corey walks up to the entrance of a building with Vine at his side.
Walked in, asked the person at the desk, hey, is this the right location? And I was told, nope, you're 2 blocks shy. And that's how I got to where I needed to be. I went to the wrong place. Sometimes it's a little bit of a trial and error.
Photos. Corey is a baby listening to headphones.
This concept of trial and error is just such a base part of my life.
Corey in a high school group at Space Camp. He and other students wear Space Camp uniforms.
To figure out how to take a math test when I was in grade school. We didn't get it right the first time we tried, and we didn't get it right the third time. It wasn't until I was older and going more through school that I knew what to do. There was a lot of figuring shit out.
Corey dressed in a fancy all-white outfit plus sunglasses along with a guide dog. Corey sits in a living room.
Of course I go to the movies. I really enjoy movies. Throughout high school and college, going to the movies with friends was one of the most common things I did. Because, hey, why not? There are movies that I haven't been able to enjoy as much as others. Let's take something like Avatar, right? There's elements of the visual experience that are just lost on me. But of course, it's more than just the visual experience. There's the sound, there's the dialogue, there's the plot, there's being there with your friends and being able to talk about the things that happened. There's a lot that goes into the movie experience more than video and visuals. There are movies that I just don't get to enjoy. Take something like Pan's Labyrinth that's in Spanish. Even though I know multiple languages and can see movies in Japanese or Chinese or German and stumble my way through listening to them, something in Spanish, can't enjoy at all. And Pan's Labyrinth would be a great example of one that, hey, it's award-winning, my friends have seen it, they talk about all the things that happen, and I'm totally at a loss because I can't read subtitles. I couldn't go see it. I can't download a movie that's subtitled on iTunes. And if I do download a movie that's subtitled and I didn't know it, well, that's $5 I'm out. It's one thing to acknowledge, oh yeah, blind people want to read my blog. It's another thing to actually make your blog readable by blind people. It's one thing to say, yes, people in wheelchairs want to shop at Walmart. It's another thing to actually figure out how and where to put the ramp, what incline the ramp needs to be, where's the best place to put the door that the ramp goes to. These are 2 very disparate areas in my point of view. There's the consideration, then there's the actual implementation and design. You design for accessibility, and you build for usability. These 2 distinct areas cross over, where there's all of these details that we need to consider as designers, But as creators, we have a responsibility to create in a way that takes all those considerations and actually brings them to life.
Corey walks in downtown Portland, Oregon with Vine at his side.
10 years ago, if I wanted a phone that I could use as a digital assistant, it required a special phone with special software that cost over $1,000 just for the software. Now, 10 years later, we're at a point that I can walk into any cell phone carrier
Corey walks by a cell phone store.
and buy nearly any phone and be able to use it right then and there.
Vine, the guide dog, yawns.
As a visually impaired person, I use a screen reader on my phone called VoiceOver. I also sometimes use an Android device and I use TalkBack on that. For this example, I'm going to show VoiceOver.
Corey sets his iPhone on a table.
Messages.
Once my phone's unlocked, I'm told that I'm on the messages icon on my home screen. I can navigate through
iBooks.
the home screen to
App Store.
my messages area.
Spotify. iTunes Store. Clock. 4:30. Fantastical. Photos. Messages. Messages. Text field is editing. Character mode. Insertion point and start.
Let's send a text message to Chris Higgins, the director of this movie, to let him know we're running 5 minutes late.
C. Charlie. H. Chris Higgins. Work. 503-555-0156.
I just double tapped on the name that I want to send this to, so I'll swipe to the text area to put in my message.
Chris Higgins. Plus 150-355-555-0156. Button. Add contact. Button. Attach media. Button. Message. iMessage. Text field. Insertion point at end.
The double tap let the phone know I want to enter text in this area. To make this easier for this demonstration, I'm going to use the voice to text function.
Caps. Cap. Dictate.
Hey Chris, I'm running 10 minutes late.
Attach done. Inserted. Hey Chris, I'm running 10 minutes late. Space. Return. Send. Button. Send. Dimmed. Chris. Text field is editing. Character mode. iMessage. Insertion point and start.
Corey smiles. Chris speaks from off screen.
I got a text message.
Chris Higgins is typing. Message received from Chris Higgins. No problem. See you soon. Chris Higgins, stop typing.
And now we've sent a text message. Of course, like all technology, there's a time and place for everything, and speech is great for most of how I use my mobile device. But when I'm on a meeting or on the bus or on the train or at a coffee shop, there's a lot of times I don't want to use speech or have to wear headphones to listen to that speech. So I use a device called a Braille display that will show what it would normally be spoken in Braille along a Braille display.
Corey runs his fingers over a Braille display.
Fantastical.
Braille letters pop up on the display. Corey sits in a coffee shop using his Braille display.
I can even operate the entire device
Spotify.
by keyboard command, just like I would on a standard PC with any other screen reader.
App Store. Settings. iBooks. OneNote.
So my watch is actually really unique because it's tactile in a way that as a visually impaired person, I can read it with my fingers by feeling the marble on the front of the face and the tick marks,
Corey feels his watch face with his fingers.
and the marble on the side of the bezel and the tick marks to read minutes and hours respectively. It's really unique because it was a design project from a military vet that actually wanted something that looked unique, was durable, and was tactile for someone who's visually impaired. The idea for this watch is really straightforward. It's something that looks good, and is usable by everyone. I'm not asking for something special so that I can use the thing. I'm asking for the thing to be usable or accessible from the get-go.
Corey sits in a sunny room.
I think developers at a base level know what accessibility is. I don't think they know that they have to do anything differently to make something accessible. It goes back to when we were first learning how to handle data privacy and data security. There was a time when personal data was stored as plain text in databases. We had to learn that these things couldn't happen like that because it wasn't secure. Same thing with accessibility. We have to learn the best practices that makes what we're building accessible from the get-go. And right now, I don't think developers are taught that accessibility is something they should be concerned with from a very early point in their education. From a basic human perspective, we have rights to access that information and manage that information. This goes all the way up to government legislatures saying, yes, you have access to your health information. Yes, you have access to your financial information. Yes, you have rights to manage all this information, and organizations are responsible to enable that. Well, when we're talking about all this information that's by its definition electronic and managed electronically, we have to make sure that everyone can access that information as a human right. It makes access to information the human right. You know, someone who's really cynical in this conversation might say that the call to action is to give a shit. But in reality, if you're making something or creating something, of course you give a shit. What I would ask people to do is ask themselves, as they're creating, making, building, developing, can I enjoy this if I'm a little slower to use this, if I'm on a slow internet connection, if I'm blind, if I can't hear, if I'm on a 10-year-old BlackBerry, if flashes hurt my eyes and give me migraines, if I've never used a website like this. Ask yourself, can I use this or enjoy this if?
End titles. Access, a film by Chris Higgins. Made possible by a grant from Lucid Meetings, providing technology and services to scale effective meeting habits. lucidmeetings.com. Camera, sound, and edit by Chris Higgins. Additional camera by Adam Cornelius. Color correction by Andy Blubaugh. Audio description by Lucy Bellwood. That's me. Special thanks to Mary Frances Macachin. Photos courtesy of Corey Joseph. Music, Gymnopédie No. 1 by Eric Satie. Already There by Josh Woodward. The House by Chris Remo. All songs used under license from their performers. To learn more about accessibility and universal design, visit accessmovie.org.